I just can't escape you, can I, you cunning, conniving little blue devil? Even when I'm trying to do different content on the channel, you just keep finding ways to pop up, don't you? Well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, especially with your big movie coming up only, 3 weeks away now? So, yeah, I guess it makes sense for you to be here, and for you to be the theme month for the second year in a row. So, yep, it's back to the world of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I can only hope that you guys enjoy it. What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station, which is your fan animation, including a hedgehog that runs faster than the speed of sound, as well as TV and movies. I'm your host, Jackson Small. Today is an exciting day, because we are going back to my fandom roots when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, most people were introduced through, the original game from 1991, or the latest movie trilogy, or Sonic Prime, or maybe even Sonic Boom. But, for me, my humble beginnings are from the 2000s, with one specific trio of releases. I'm going to call them the Spiky Trilogy. The Spiky Trilogy, that's what I'm going to call it, the Spiky Trilogy. It was Unleashed, it was Black Knight, and it was Sonic X. This is the show that came out when I was a kid, back in the late 2000s, on a channel called Jetix, which also had TMNT 2003, Power Rangers Dino Thunder. It was pretty much the best channel to have as a kid growing up, outside of course, Nickelodeon. And this show was my formal introduction to the entirety of Sonic the Hedgehog, to its cast, to its characters, to their dynamics, to their personalities. This is where it all started for me. Yes, my very first introduction to Sonic was way back in 2003, playing Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on my emulated Xbox for the first time. But I wasn't really into Sonic for the first few years until around the late 2000s when I saw Sonic X. And Sonic X was what made me into the die-hard Sonic fan that I've been for over 20 years now. So to celebrate that occasion, not to mention this being a big year for Sonic the Hedgehog with the third movie coming out, Sonic X Shadow Generations breaking records, I think it's time that we take this December to look back at what made me fall in love with this franchise, and see how well this show holds up today. So, welcome one and all to SoniCemberX, the month where we're going to be taking a look at the entire first season of Sonic X, and see how it holds up today. Now yes, I know this is a 4Kids production, I'm taking that into account, but I'm also judging it on a few different things: enjoyability, faithfulness to the characters, animation quality, and overall story. It's not going to be the most super critical thing in the world, but this is going to be a lot more in-depth than some of my other reviews. More in-depth than My Hero or any of those. My Hero, Attack on Titan. This is going to be some of my most in-depth reviews because I have a lot of childhood memories attached to some of these, especially Sonic's Screen Test. I have a lot to say about that episode, and may or may not include some childhood trauma, so be prepared for that. That's later down the line this month. But this should still be really fun. We're going to be going through all 25 episodes of Season 1 of Sonic X in an in-depth way, very similar to my other anime reviews, but also give extra depth and attention to things like the different localization, the voice cast, the animators, the studios, and most of all, if there's any references to the games I can spot throughout it. So, yep, that's what we're going to be doing this month, and if it goes well, we'll cover Season 2 next December. So, without further ado or delay, let's dive in, starting with the pilot episode, Chaos Control Freaks, the first episode of Season 1 and the first episode of Sonic X, which originally aired on April 6th of 2003 and August 23rd, 2003 in Japan and the United States, respectively. And the episode is all about setting up the first big arc of the show, which is that Sonic and friends end up getting teleported from their world to the real world, and they have to figure out why and how to get back, and of course keep Eggman from doing his normal schemes. You know, kind of like a normal Sonic routine, but at the same time in the human world and Sonic having to adapt to human life. So, yes, that sounds boring on paper, but trust me when I say it's anything but that, because this is a very solid, fun pilot episode. Yes, it is simple. I can entirely understand that, and I can entirely understand why it would make people think the show wasn't that good at the start. I can get that. But trust me, it's fun, it's delightful, it's charming, and yes, it's for kids, so the writing is, of course, goofy. But let's break it all down step by step in this review, and see how it holds up today. Please ignore Biscuit and Reggie, they're having a moment again. So let's start with the appearances, and this is the first appearance of pretty much every single character in the show, except for Shadow. Shadow's not till Season 2. So, the characters in order of appearance are Amy, Big, Boko, Cheese, Chris Thorndike, Cream, Decoy, Dr. Eggman, E-Series, Behemoth and Guardbot, Froggy, Knuckles, Tails, the police officers, and Officer Albright, Rouge the Bat, Sonic the Hedgehog, Speed and the Speed Team, Hector Drag, and Sam Speed, which is an older relative of Chris, who we'll find more about in another episode. So, let's dive into this episode review. And there is a lot to talk about here. But before we even get into the episode itself, I want to start by talking about... Knock it off. I want to start by talking about the different songs, because there are two different songs from the two different versions. In the Japanese version, you had Sonic Drive and Future as the opening theme and closing theme, respectively. They're okay. They're what you expect from anime openings and ending themes. And then the English version, we got Gotta Go Fast, which, yes, all the yes, that song is freaking extremely underrated. Sonic X, and the Gotta Go Fast shortened instrumental version for the credits. Gotta Go Fast is a really good song, and I'm surprised it doesn't get talked about more often. Okay, now let's dive into the plot. We're going to break it down step by step, and these episodes are very plot dense, so these are going to be some of my longer exploratory segments in my anime reviews. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy as we relive the adventure together. The episode starts out in a forest at nighttime. It shows Big the Cat and his pet frog, Froggy, sleeping. Just then, an alarm is heard going off in a nearby tower, switching on its lights. Sonic the Hedgehog runs towards the base whilst robots and the base defenses roll along the base, preparing to arm themselves. The defenses begin shooting their bullets and missiles at Sonic, but the Hedgehog proves too fast for them to hit, as per usual. As Sonic speeds closer to the base, some E-12 Behemoth robots activate and chase Sonic around. They're kind of like the grunts of this show. In an attempt to outrun them, Sonic runs past a spring, which activates, launching Sonic into the air. However, whilst in the air, Sonic gets punched by a behemoth, which sends him flying. Miles, Tails, Prower, and Amy Rose arrive on the scene in the Tornado 2 to try to help Sonic. Already feeling very accurate to the games. Tails in his plane, and Amy following with him in the plane. As they are flying past the base defenses, they start shooting at the plane, which results in the plane being shot before going up in flames. This leaves Amy terrified, but Tails wants to save Sonic and he shoots a missile, revealing a ring towards Sonic's direction. The ring powers up Sonic, who then destroys the robots with ease before making his way to Eggman's control room. And this ring is one of Sonic's power-ups in the show. It's not really specified what it is exactly, it's just a giant ring that he gives to Sonic. Sonic gets super powered from it, and it makes him even faster than he already is. Pretty much. If I had to guess, I think that's an homage to Sonic Satam, where I think they had that same kind of thing. So, that's cool. I already have one Easter egg from Sonic's history. Meanwhile, Deco tells Dr. Eggman that the doors of the base have been closed and locked. Eggman complains that Sonic always interferes with his plans and responds that Sonic would always be determined to put a stop to his evil plans. Cream and Cheese Yes, these two are in the show this early, and that genuinely surprised me as a kid, are the captured prisoners that Sonic was infiltrating to rescue. Cream says to Eggman that Sonic only stops his plans because he's Eggman and he's a bad person. Yeah, for kids writing. You have to know what you're getting into going in, or you're going to feel a little bit, like, confused. As Eggman proves that Sonic is too late to stop him, in this case where all he has to do is insert a Chaos Emerald along with the other 6 emeralds into the energy amplifier machine in the center of the room, Sonic smashes the scenery, much to Eggman's chagrin. After hitting some inputs, Eggman tells Sonic that he can't be stopped and all he has to do is press the button. Sonic taunts in response that Eggman should press the button before Sonic can grab it. Just then, a guard bot arrives who begins to attack Sonic around the room. Sonic manages to trick the robot into shooting the machine that the Chaos Emeralds have been powering. Not the first time he's pulled this trick. The machine malfunctions and causes chaos control, warping everyone to another world, Earth. So, we get the explanation right away about how they ended up in the human world. But it's not done through giant exposition dump. It's done through show not tell philosophy, which I'm always going to praise because it's so rarely ever done nowadays. The scene then cuts to Sonic as he lays on the ground unconscious until a truck rushes towards him. The hedgehog finds himself in the middle of the road. Because of this, the hedgehog becomes confused by his surroundings. People around him are stunned at seeing a blue hedgehog in return, not to mention standing on 2 feet. The police arrive on the scene and they try to catch him. Sonic is too stubborn and quick for them and takes off towards the highway, as a couple of police officers are driving down the highway, sharing their excitement for capturing a blue hedgehog. Yeah, I'm just gonna say, Sonic messing with the police in this scene is both in character and insanely funny. Like, one of them tries to get him in the net, which is a spot from the intro, too, from the opening intro of the show. And Sonic just speeds off with him still holding on to the net. It's funny. It's just ridiculously funny. Sonic lands on the police car, wondering how he can escape before once again taking off to the roads. The police set up a roadblock covering a long range of the highway using cruisers, barricades, and large construction vehicles. But Sonic incredibly jumps over the entire roadblock. As you do. With no other option, the police send in their special high-speed unit, the Speed Team, consisting of 5 racers with Sam Speed as the leader, who once again is related to Chris, which we'll talk about when it's his time for his episode. Confident as they walk towards their cars, the mechanics are finished with the maintenance of the cars before the team and driver speeds towards the highway. I do like the concept of having like a speed police that not even... Like when the normal police officers can't catch someone, they call up these other guys in these super fast racing cars to get these people. Like, that's actually a really cool detail that I wish some shows used more. Sonic is then sitting on a lamppost while staring into the night sky, noting that the sky remained the same compared to his world. He then thinks back to the beginning of the episode, remembering after witnessing Eggman's base being destroyed, they were warped to Earth. Sonic assumes that he is warped through time and space by the cause of chaos control, while he shows concern if he is the only one in this new world without his friends. Unaware that they're there with him, they're just in another episode. Just when Sonic jumps back onto the road, that's when the Speed Team arrives. Sam Speed gets out of his car and talks with Sonic, who claims that the latter is hard to keep up with. Not feeling impressed, because, no surprise there, it is Sonic we're talking about here. Sonic turns to leave, but he's stopped. Sam then tells him that Station Square, yes, we are in the actual Station Square from Sonic Adventure, has been peaceful as the Speed Team have made only 1 arrest last year. Sonic smirks in amusement after hearing the story. Sam then explains the Speed Team's role, and then he remarks to Sonic that he should consider who is the fastest before the rest of the Speed Team begin chasing Sonic as he takes off. With the Speed Team in pursuit of Sonic, the Hedgehog mocks the Speed Team by claiming that the S stands for slow motion. Well, before accelerating. Like, Sonic's in character. Like, he doesn't feel out of place. He doesn't feel like he's acting out of character. He is acting in character and being the same cocky, arrogant hedgehog we fell in love with. Just animated. The fellow Speed Team members accelerate to catch up with Sonic in an attempt to trap him between the cars, but Sonic avoids the stunt, toying around on another Speed Team member's car, and exceeds 300 kilometers per hour in reverse, much to Hector Drag's dismay. Sam orders his team members to leave a gap on the center lane, as he refuses to lose to Sonic. He activates his Super Nitro, granting him to reach speeds over 500 kilometers an hour, but even with that, Sonic surprises Sam by running at supersonic speeds, leaving the Speed Team in the dust. Because after all, he is... Where's my hand? He is the fastest thing alive. However, Sonic's unable to stop himself before he runs off the end of an unfinished overpass. His speed is so great that he actually soars for a while and triggers nearby wind turbines to spin faster, looking down at all the beautiful bright city lights. He then soars towards a mansion and is heading toward the swimming pool, much to the hedgehog's disgrace. Because Sonic can't swim. Sonic attempts to run in midair to avoid landing in it, but it is no use. Insert Silver the Hedgehog joke here. As Sonic inevitably falls into the pool, landing right in the center of the pool floor. The sound of the splash is made by the landing in the pool wakes up a boy, Chris Thorndike, from his sleep, who heads out of the house to see what is happening. While Sonic is trying his best to hold his breath, he sees a ladder and tries to run towards it. But the water drag is so great that he couldn't move at all. Just when Sonic thought it was over for him, Chris dives into the pool, sticking out his hand, to which Sonic clings onto and pulls him out of the water. Sonic is thankful for the rescue, which surprises Chris as he eagerly introduces himself, asking for Sonic's name as he does so, ending with Sonic telling him his name. And that's all in just the first episode. Like, that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy that they packed in that much into a 25-minute episode and it didn't feel rushed. But yeah, that's the plot. It's simple, it's basic, but it's good old fun. It starts out like any Sonic adventure would, and then it goes into the human world and starts trying to set up what's going to happen through the remainder of the season, or at least the first half of it. Now let's get to the regional differences, because there's actually a good few of them. There are some scenes in the Japanese version involving characters screaming at some points that were muted in the English dub. Probably for obvious reasons. In the dub, the gun sounds heard when Eggman's robots shoot at Sonic are replaced by lasers. For kids. Eggman's base is mistranslated as Chaos Control in the tub, and in the Russian dub it was mistranslated as High Chaos's Tower. Oh, 4Kids, you and your censorship never failed to make the most unintentional laughs in history. Sonic Drive was replaced in the dub with generic action music. In the Japanese version, there is mention of one of the Speed Team giving Sam Speed something extra in his drink without people noticing. This might be a reference to Sam using performance enhancers, not mentioned in the English dub. That one for obvious reasons. Alright, let's go to the gallery, see if I can find the exact pictures. So, yep, comparison to the Japanese left and English right versions of the same scene where Sonic's about to overtake Sam Speed. One of them is in blue and white, and then in the English dub, it is purple, blue, and white. A little weird. The Japanese version has a white and blue background again as he's spin dashing, and the English version of that same scene has a bunch of green rather than white and blue. A little weird. A scene showing a front view of some vehicles just before the truck driver complains is cut from the English dub. That makes no sense. A scene showing the S-Team speeding across the highway from the viewer's perspective is shortened. That one makes sense, probably for time reasons. The definition of the sonic boom, it was still featured in the French version written as supersonique. Interesting. So, this is definitely not the end of the 4Kids censorship, and we're going to see a lot more of it. Also, funny enough, there is an animation goof, where there's a scene where the back of Amy's head is miscolored peach instead of pink. Oops. And it has a ton and ton of different names. In Japanese, it's Supersonic Hero Appears. In Chinese, it's Supersonic Hero Appears. In Dutch, it's Entry of the Supersonic Hero. In French, it is The Arrival of Sonic. German, Supersonic. Greek, Chaos Control Freaks. So Greek is the only one that actually kept the same name as the English dub. That's a little weird. In Hebrew, it's called Chaos Control. In Korean, it's called a Supersonic Hero. Again, that same name. In Italian, it's called Escaping from Chaos / Sonic Looks for Answers. In Persian, it's called Sonic X1. In Polish, it's called Enter a Supersonic Hedgehog. In Romania, it's called Chaos Control Maniacs, because I guess freaks was an offensive word in there? I don't know. Supersonic Hero appears again, is in Russian. In Portuguese, it's called The Crazy Ones of Chaos Control, or Uncontrolled Chaos Control. Mouthful. In Portuguese, it's also called The Sonic Super Hedgehog Appears. Spanish, it's called There Comes the Supersonic Hedgehog. In Spanish, it's called The Chaos and the Crazy Ones of Control. In Thai, it's called Tumultuous Chaos Control. And in Vietnamese, it's just called Sonic Appears. I'm reading the English translations because I'm not even going to try to pronounce the actual titles of these other ones because I am an uncultured idiot. Alright, now for some trivia. The Australian DVD gives the name of the episode as Supersonic Hero Appears. As we've seen, that's used in a couple of different dubs. Chaos Control referred to Eggman's base rather than the power. This may be due to a script writing error or the fact that the 4Kids Entertainment producers knew nothing about the Sonic the Hedgehog series at that time, or a combination of both. I would probably assume it's probably more than likely a combination of both. This is the only episode that Rouge appears that does not have the Rouge music played to accompany her appearance. That might have been a licensing issue. In the Japanese version, just as Sonic starts running backwards, Sonic Drive, the Japanese opening theme of Sonic X, plays for a section of the episode until Sonic runs off the bridge. Cool. Honestly, I don't mind the generic action music that plays during that scene. A clip of the beginning of this episode is played during the 4Kids Entertainment crossover, The Fight for the Fox Box. Numerous scenes, including those that had Knuckles, Boko, Cream, and Cheese, were absent from the clip. There are voices added as the alarm during the initial assault, and the lines have been rewritten to fit with the context of the crossover. Okay, a little weird. This episode can be featured on the Game Boy Advance video alongside Sonic to the Rescue, the second episode of the show. Two civilians that resemble Lupin III and Fujiko Mine from the Lupin 3 franchise can be seen in one of the crowd scenes where Sonic first arrives in the city. Interesting. TMS Entertainment, who own the rights to Sonic X, also own Lupin 3. Okay, that makes sense. A very brief clip of this episode was featured in the anniversary video Unstoppable, which was uploaded to the Sonic the Hedgehog YouTube video at about 46 seconds in. Two different scenes of Sam Speed driving his rocket car in this episode are reused in How to Catch a Hedgehog, which is the name of the episode that Sam is more prevalently featured in. And finally, the police station control room scene in this episode is reused in Fast Friends. So there is some budget cuts in these later episodes, but that's for obvious reasons. This is an anime, and it's not being done by Funimation, so they're kind of just working with what they got. And I'm not going to knock them for that, because they're trying their best with what they have. And that's what matters most. So, yep, I think that's about it. Yeah, because it's not really going to show me the voice cast, which is a little weird. But, yeah, that is episode 1 of Sonic the Hedgehog X. Please excuse my bad translation. Okay, now to get to my final thoughts on the episode itself. It's a pretty solid pilot episode that does a good job introducing the beginning of the story and how Sonic and Kyle ended up in the human world. And Sonic messing around with cops trying to catch him was just hilarious and very much in character. I also appreciate how it's more of a show not tell approach to the exposition, not outright explaining what happened, and more so like Sonic himself, kind of just figuring it out as it goes along, rather than just being a big exposition dump like most anime. I'm looking at you, Attack on Titan. I also want to highlight the great voice acting here too. Jason Griffith, fantastic Sonic, he will always be my personal favorite Sonic. Lisa Ortiz, while not being prevalent in this pilot, is wonderful as Amy, and we'll hear much more of her throughout the season. Mike Pollock as Eggman just speaks for itself. I mean, he literally became the voice of Eggman in the games from this point onward. Dan Green, yes, Atem from Yu-Gi-Oh! as well as the voice of Mephiles from Sonic 06, is very good as Knuckles. Like, he is a very, very good voice for Knuckles. And even Suzanne Goldfish is really good as Chris Thorndike. And I don't understand the character's hate at all. Yes, this is still for kids, so the writing is all kinds of goofy, and obviously there's different changes and censorship things. But credit where it's due. It's a fun start to the series and does a good job keeping viewers invested in the story. Sure, it is a bit cheesy, but it's full of charm and the effort from the creation team is on full display. Much like the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise itself, the majority of the time. So, with all that said, let's get down to our final verdict for Sonic X Episode 1, Chaos Control Freaks, which is going to be a 7 out of 10. It's a solid, fun pilot episode that builds intrigue but also delivers an entertaining watch by itself. And what's cool is that this series is free on YouTube, so you guys can check this out with the pinned comment in the comment section down below, and give me your thoughts on the episode. See if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you think it's amazing, if you think it's not very good. I'm always more than happy to hear your comments and hear feedback. Well, that's pretty much all I can say for now. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. And I will see you guys next time when we dive into Episode 2 of Sonic X, titled Sonic to the Rescue.
Listen, I will soon forget. So listen and you won't regret. Be true to yourself, don't miss your chance. And you won't end up like the fool who ripped his pants.